Hello guys, so in this video I'm going to be going over why isolation training is a great form of training to focus in on any specific goals that you have, why you should implement isolation training over certain compound lifts, and yeah, the benefits of isolation training. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so when we're going over isolation training, especially when it comes to achieving our particular goals in health and fitness, we need to go over what your goals are as your journey goes through your workout routine. Why are you working out? Are you going for longevity? Are you going for strength and power? Are you going into a particular sport? And in this narrowing down of whatever your goals are, we can then narrow down what you should do in isolation training. This is not to say compound training does not have its benefits in the gym. When you're doing compound training, I think compound training is very good for time saving and if you want to get a lot of muscles in all at once. But if your goal is very focused, very specified goal, isolation training can be very, very useful. Example could be right now, like me. I'm chewing this gum. If you guys saw my video on jawline training, it can increase very marginally. It's not not crazy increase. It's not going to give you a super jawline, but it can increase your masseter muscle size, which can then make your jawline thicker and bigger. That's one example of isolation training. People use these rubbers too for their jawline. Another example of isolation training could be neck training. You see a lot of boxers, Muay Thai, MMA fighters, they use neck training. What this does is that it thickens the muscles in your neck and your tendons, because when you get hit, usually it's the shaking of the head that causes the shaking of the brain inside the skull, which then leads to you getting knocked out. So if you have thick muscles in your neck, you absorb the punch and you don't move as much because your neck is thick. It keeps your head in place, and keeping your head in place will then lead to less movement of the skull, less movement of the brain, and increased longevity overall. So that's another example of isolation training. Also, if you're a runner, why would you want excess? You'd want to train your upper body. You don't want to be just not training your upper body. But there's a point where you wouldn't want to overtrain your upper body, so you focus more on your quads and your hamstrings. And it's hard to train hamstrings in general unless you're doing squats. But with leg extensions and squats, you typically focus more on your quad muscle. So you have to isolate your hamstring to really increase your capabilities when it comes to running. So isolation training could go into these types of circumstances where you get to train your hamstring more, and you can see why a lot of people have hamstring injuries, because their hamstrings are way weaker than their quads, because when they run, they typically activate their quads a lot more, and there's certain steps that you take where you activate your hamstrings a lot, and you might not know you step a certain way. You have to use a lot of your hamstring. Hamstring isn't ready because you barely train it. You doesn't get activated nearly as much as quad, and you pull a hamstring, and you don't stretch it either. So isolation training is very important in that scenario too. And isolation training doesn't just mean training your physique and regular standards and regular methods like training the thickness of the muscle. It could also be in stretching. If you isolate the stretching aspect of your training, you'll be able to then have increased muscle belly length, and this can lead to reduced injury risk, which goes back to what I was saying with the hamstring, and increased mobility. And this will all reduce your risk of injury in anything that you do. And you want to be able to do this just by training regularly. You could train your whole life doing push-ups, running, and all this, and you'd be probably a little bit more flexible than the average person, but you want to be able to really narrow down your flexibility. And cardiovascular training, you have to isolate cardiovascular training to get the most out of it. You're not going to be getting very cardiovascularly active by lifting weights. You have to isolate, you have to separate it, and you have to give a certain amount of time between your cardiovascular training and your weight training to see the most result. So in this case, isolation training is also very useful, since we all need to have a good solid cardiovascular system to live longer. It's one of the most important things, even above having thicker muscles and weight training. Cardiovascular training is much more important. This all goes for all these different types of aspects of training. Training in anything too. It's not just strength training. Training in your mind, your spirit, your everything. You have to isolate it. You can't just there's a certain amount of compounding where if you're doing too many things at once, let's say like deadlift, it really makes it hard for you to grow muscle in your legs because you're so tired. Your legs are already, they get a little sore, but you don't really get to focus down on them, and it makes it hard for you to then train your legs after because they're sore and they're trying to recover and they don't get the same type of growth. So isolation training really goes with the law of specificity that I've stated before in some of my older videos. And the more specific you are in your training, the more focused down, the more pinpoint where you pin down what you want in life and your goals, the more useful isolation training becomes because you get better results overall. You're not wasting your time training something that won't really lead you down the path that you're expecting to go down. It's like studying sports science when you want to be an astronaut. How is sports science going to make you a better astronaut? It's really not. It's better that you study rocket science, and then you go into rocket science and you become better. And if you want to be working in the sports field and you already know sports science, if you want to narrow down even further, you can go into kinesiology and learn how that works. Kinesiology is like the study of your body's anatomy and how it works under training, and it's interesting stuff too that goes along with sports science. So that's pretty much it for when we're talking about isolation training, and isolating what your focus is in general in life, not just training, to achieve whatever goals you're going for. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This video might have been a little different from my regular training videos, but I hope you like it. Please comment down below. Tell me whatever you guys want to see. I think you guys thought was interesting in this video. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.